90.8 Jago 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 Mumbai oh 90.8 Jago 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 Mumbai
आपका अपना सामुदायिक रेडियो स्टेशन
ई बोले तो एंटरप्राइज
ई बोले तो एंटरप्राइज।
Hello Mumbai, I am Arun Shankar
और मैं हूँ अनंत कृष्णा
and welcome to a new episode of Bole Enterprise. On this show, Anant and I bring to you stories about local enterprises and entrepreneurs behind them. Yeah, we take a look at how they started their business and how did they go about expanding their enterprises.
Yup, more specifically, how do the founders take an idea into an actual business? उन्होंने कैसा market किया, कैसा hire किया, and where they're taking it to the future.
Today, however, is the second in the series of unique ones. Today we feature Dasra, an organization that mentors and funds social entrepreneurs and non-profits.
Social entrepreneurs work to bring about change. Typically target anything from health, nutrition, education and various civic issues. Dasra does a couple of things here. It mentors them, it supports them by various means, and it also brings people who are interested in giving to such organizations. They're based in Santa Cruz, and we are going to find out more from Deval, Sanghavi, who's one of the founders of this organization, and he serves as a director.
So you stay tuned. We'll be right back on Bole Enterprise on 90.8 Jago Mumbai.
90.8 Jago 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 Mumbai oh 90.8 Lose control
हाय दिस इज आमिर खान और आप सुन रहे हैं 90.8 जागो मुंबई
Lose control
ऑल पीपल फ्रॉम बैंड्रा टू सपोर्ट देयर ओन रेडियो स्टेशन. ये हमारा खुद का रेडियो स्टेशन है. हमें इसे हर तरीके से सपोर्ट करना चाहिए. सबसे पहले तो हमें इसको सुनना चाहिए एंड बी पार्ट ऑफ द रेडियो स्टेशन. सुनते रहिए.
Lose control
ई बोले तो एंटरप्राइज
ई बोले तो एंटरप्राइज. Welcome back. You're listening to Bole to Enterprise with Anant and Arun, and we are just going to start our conversation with Mr. Deval Sanghavi of Dasra. Deval, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
What does Dasra do?
Dasra works with givers as well as NGO leaders and social business heads and really matches them two together, not just to connect them to do and create greater impact, but I think more importantly, providing both of those segments with capacity building support, knowledge, and resources so they can do their jobs better.
So how was it started?
So it was started, I think, very differently than most NGOs are started, where I actually was working in investment banking in New York in the late 90s, and that's where I met my wife, and both of us felt a lot of the systems and processes and rigor in terms of understanding sectors, evaluating management teams, and providing those then organizations funding and managerial support to scale. We kept thinking that the same philosophy could be transferred to the nonprofit sector where your returns are not monetary, but they're social. Mm-hmm. And that was really the premise of us, or our hypothesis, I guess, in starting Dasra.
Right. When was this? How long ago?
This was September 99.
All right. So it's been about 13 years now.
Exactly.
Wow. All right.
And what are the kind of organizations that you support now?
So on the organizational, sort of on the social entrepreneur side, it's a good mix between social businesses and NGOs. These are typically ones that are poised to scale, meaning they have a proven track record. They're looking at going either pan-metro or pan-state or even pan-India. On the flip side, we work closely with high net worth individuals and really help them make smarter giving decisions and ensure that they're providing the same type of resources that these organizations need to create greater impact.
You were in New York and you set it up in Mumbai now.
It was,
how was that journey?
Sure.
Can you quickly give us a background?
Of course. So I originally moved out to India in 99 and I actually didn't even come to Mumbai. I spent some time in rural India volunteering with organizations on the ground. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where I got a real good sense of what grassroots organizations needed to improve their quality of delivery. And it was a combination of funding and hands-on support. Mm-hmm. So the transition surprisingly was quite easy because I sort of had was excited about going to a place which didn't have electricity, which had the exact opposite sort of vibe of Manhattan.
Right.
So it was a very, very easy transition because that's exactly why I was coming to do this.
Right.
And then it was in 2000 sort of that I moved to Mumbai to sort of start this organization officially from here.
So did the family raise eyebrows? Did they freak out? What did they say?
Not happy at all.
Really?
Disappointed,
Yeah.
questioning why they moved to America to raise us, and now I've decided to come back.
Right.
Deval, you spoke about this sector, and we would want to know more about what exactly the sector is about CSR and about philanthropy when we come back from this break. So stay tuned. You're listening to Bole Enterprise on 90.8 Jago Mumbai.
90.8 Jago, Jago, Jago. Jago Mumbai. 90.8
Bole to Enterprise.
Bole Enterprise.
Welcome back to Bole Enterprise. We are in conversation with Deval Sanghavi of Dasra. Deval, you spoke about the social sector. Can you just brief us about what exactly the sector is and what are the activities that go on?
Sure. I think it's a mix between those who are doing the work and what we call them social entrepreneurs. And these are individuals who have either started NGOs or even the last couple of years social businesses. And these are again, businesses that make money, but their goal is to help the poor. So, for example, someone who's selling solar lanterns in non-electrified villages or helping salt pan workers in Gujarat sell their salt at a higher premium. They're businesses, but their goal is social in mind. So that's one aspect of the sector, which really are the people who are doing phenomenal work and have come up with innovative solutions to help the beneficiaries directly. And I think the other aspect, which is very important and sometimes forgotten about, are those who are giving the money and the resources to allow this to happen. So these can be individuals, it can be corporates, it can be donor agencies, it can also be government who's fueling and funding these different approaches.
Right.
So how is it different from philanthropy?
So I think philanthropy is definitely part of it. And the way we sort of look at giving, I guess, is there's traditional giving that's occurred in our country for millions of years. And that's more, to religious institutions, to your community, and maybe even to your individuals around you.
Right.
And I think that's charitable giving. The difference between that and philanthropy is that philanthropy is actually looking at innovative new solutions that can solve problems. So it's not bandaging the issue, but it's actually turning the issue itself on its head and figuring out how we can create a difference and actually solve that.
So you mentioned philanthropy as a person, or it could be a company as well, right?
Exactly. It could be an individual or a company.
When it comes to companies, there's a term that's bandied around, which is corporate social responsibility. Can you give us a sense of what that is? As CSR is a popular acronym that a lot of people use. Can you give us a bit of a background on what CSR do you see and what CSR applies to you in your sector?
Of course. So I think it's interesting because a lot of people actually are skeptical about CSR and they feel that these are just companies trying to window dress some of the ills that they may have caused. And that's actually has been the case. I mean, just like anything, there's always good things and bad things.
Right.
But typically the definition of CSR should be, how do you help the communities that you work in? And there's a clear link between benefiting that community and then that community becoming customers of your products and services.
Right.
And it's really been ingrained, I think, in the Indian mindset before that term was even created with the Tatas, the Birlas, the Godreges. You see them, going into areas, helping those areas first, and then setting up businesses later.
Right.
So what role does Dasra actually play in these two, connecting these two players?
Sure. With the social entrepreneur, the NGOs, I guess, we actually help them think about their plans, create stronger plans in place, really focus on professionalizing them.
Right.
Because we think many of them are started by passionate leaders, but may not have all of the skill sets needed to run a sustainable organization. On the flip side, these philanthropists or these givers, they want to do good. They may have limited time to do that. So we provide that group with research on sectors, help them understand the issue at hand, and then provide them linkages to these organizations that they can not just fund, but also provide volunteer or hands-on support to.
Just to get a sense of the numbers, what kind of money are we talking about, as in when philanthropy is concerned, as in CSR is concerned? Just give us a sense.
Sure. So I think we've been fortunate in India in the last 18 months, just from 7 individuals, we've had announcements above $3 billion. So clearly the numbers are huge now, and more high net worth individuals in this country are looking to give. They're actually giving more than corporates do. And I think because the numbers are so large, it even puts more of an impetus to make sure that that money is used effectively and is reaching the bottom line and creating that change.
So you spoke about professionalism, you spoke about sustainability, and you spoke about giving. We are going to find out how you actually do it when we come back from this break and talk more on the word giving. So stay tuned. You're listening to Bole to Enterprise on 90.8 Jago Mumbai.
तन्हा दिल तन्हा सफर ढूंढे तुझे फिर क्यों नजर तन्हा दिल.
Hi, this is Shan on 90.8 Jago Mumbai. Yo, get involved and be a part of the fun. It's our radio station. Remember that.
90.8 Jago 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 Mumbai 90.8 बोले तो
Enterprise.
Bole to Enterprise.
Welcome back to Bole to Enterprise. We are in conversation with Deval Sanghavi of Dasra. Deval, the concept of giving. Can you just tell us more on it?
Sure. I think many times people feel that giving is only restricted to money. And I think that's a misconception. In fact, most of these organizations that you see, while money, of course, is needed and they will take that because that's how they run their organization, they also need human talent. And that's actually as scarce in this sector as the money is. So it's been amazing that we've been able to bring together volunteers and mentors into these organizations that spend extended amount of time understanding the NGO, helping them think about their issues, and then actually providing solutions and implementing those solutions. I think in India itself, while we have this huge spirit of volunteering and helping, many times we have to realize that if you're volunteering with an NGO, you're actually a volunteer. Meaning you're not the CEO, you're not the boss, you're not going in telling them how to do their business. But we have to be humbled by the phenomenal work these organizations have done from the beginning and figure out how we can help them on their journey as opposed to them helping us on ours.
Exactly, right. So do you have like a template that you follow when you talk to givers? That this is the expectations, or do you set expectations?
We do. In fact, we have a pretty stringent interview process, and we actually turn down many people with the realization that they may actually create more burden for the organization than actually assist. And I think that's what people need to realize, that even though they're giving their time for free, they're giving it actually to a cause which is so dire and needed that free time is actually costing someone something. And if they're not accountable for it, then they actually shouldn't be doing it.
So do you put the money value for the time?
We do.
Okay,
we do.
Great.
We do. We try to monetize it to the best of our ability. And just to give you an example, Bain & Company, which is a phenomenal consulting firm, last year, 16 of their consultants spent on average between 50 to 100 hours each with organizations that we work with. And the cost of that in Indian rupees and their billing rates is phenomenal. So to get that type of talent to these organizations is great. And I think the key of it is they weren't there reading books to children, which is typically what volunteers do, but they were using their consulting skills to help these organizations become better at what they do.
Which includes maybe setting up the books properly, maybe infrastructure.
Exactly.
So give us a specific example.
Sure.
With this case. Which organization were they working with, and what expertise did they provide?
Of course. So, for example, they were working with an organization called Kata in Delhi, which focuses on literacy and reading. They've not only helped children read, but they've also published books and now setting up community libraries. What the Bain consultant did in this project was actually help them understand the cost ratios of the books that they've published, the margins, and which distribution channels they can use to get to more kids. So this may not seem like typical volunteering, because you would assume if you're working with children, you'd go read, but the consultant and the NGO realized that their value was much more helping with the distribution plan and getting out to tens of lakhs of more children as opposed to working with 20 kids.
So is that the process that happens after after they've been on the ground, or do you do this beforehand?
So we spend a lot of time with the organization and the potential volunteer
Right.
to create these positions.
All right.
Because we think that's the way you can utilize that time most effectively.
Deval, I have to take a short break right now. So you stay tuned. We'll be right back with Bole Enterprise on 90.8 Jago Mumbai.
90.8 Jago 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 Mumbai 90.8 E bole to
Enterprise.
Bole Enterprise.
Welcome back to Bole Enterprise. We are in conversation with Deval Sanghavi of Dasra. So Deval, you spoke about one part of giving, and that is time. And the other part of giving was money. So can you elaborate on that part?
Sure. I think many people think that giving money away is easy. And reality is writing a check is easy. Solving a social issue is extremely difficult. So when we actually start advising individuals and helping them think about effective giving strategies, we first take the issue at hand, spend 6 to 9 months understanding that issue, researching the sector, meeting over 100 NGOs, 20 experts, and really get a sense of what the problem is that we're trying to tackle. What are the best interventions to tackle that? And then look at management teams who are doing good work in that space. And again, the reason for this type of diligence and the time frame is because you're not just writing a check, you're actually solving malnutrition or education or trafficking of children. And in order to do that, you have to find the best solution possible and then fund that organization, as opposed to the 5 minutes it takes to write a check and giving it to them and feeling that your job is done.
So if I come with a check of 1 lakh to Dasra and say that I want to solve hunger in kids, what is the process there?
So, for example, that's a great topic, and we've written a report that's available online on our website that you can download for free on child malnutrition in Mumbai and Delhi. And we've put all of this research online. It's available for anyone to access, and you can get a sense of what the issue is, what are the target interventions, what government is doing, and what are 8 to 10 organizations in this space that is doing good work. So this is a good example of these reports which we put out on a quarterly basis, really helping donors understand the issues and how they can give more effectively.
So if I were a donor, I would register with you and funnel my money through Dasra to these organizations. Would you?
So we're actually very happy that you just use this information on our website, contact the NGOs on your own and give them directly.
Right. We'll have to take a short break now, but when we come back, we'll talk more in detail about the kind of organizations that you shortlist, on what is your criteria when you research and you take a topic and you specifically get some organizations to list there. You're listening to Bole Enterprise with Anant and Arun. We'll be right back after this short break.
90.8 Jago 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 Mumbai 90.8
सलीम, ये हम क्या सुन रहे हैं? तुमने अनारकली को छोड़ दिया? क्या करूं पापा? जब से 90.8 जागो मुंबई सुनना चालू किया, तब से मैं किसी की भी नहीं सुनता पापा। There is so much local talent. अगर सुनोगे तो आप भी मम्मी को सलीम ये स्टेशन सुनाओगे। सलीम has switched to 90.8 जागो मुंबई, आपका अपना कम्युनिटी रेडियो स्टेशन।
90.8 Jago 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 Mumbai 90.8 E bole to
Enterprise.
Bole Enterprise.
You're listening to Bole Enterprise on 90.8 Jago Mumbai. I'm Anant, and with me is Arun, and we are in a fascinating conversation with Deval Sanghavi of Dasra. They're locally based here in Bandra, and it's been a great conversation so far. We've talked about what exactly do they do in the social sector, how do they bring about two different kind of actors, people who want to give and people who are actually doing the work. So Deval, where we left off, we were talking about organizations that you do a lot of research in and kind of pick out the best in that area of work. So can you talk to us about how you research these organizations?
Sure. So again, it's very similar to what a business or a private equity fund to do in understanding their investments. First of all, we understand the issue the interventions that are attacking this issue. Ideally, looking at interventions that are in partnership with the government, since they will have more funds available to actually attack the problem. And then we actually start looking at management teams and asking them what their 5-year plans are, what is the quality of that team, what's their track record, who are the funders they've had in the past, and really creating a 3 to 5 year business plan, which will help us understand where they want to go and then bring the right type of philanthropists that want to be part of that journey.
So if a social entrepreneur wants to, use that facility, can they just knock on your office door and say, hey, I need help?
Sure. So the way we reach out to the social entrepreneurs is one, when we do a research report. So for example, we're starting one on toilets and sanitation. We actually reach out to a large number of bodies and online portals to find out who's out there. We also, through the Dasra Social Impact Program that we run, have an application process. So for social entrepreneurs who want our help, they can apply to that program online and then participate.
Right.
Just by giving, it's not enough. You also do mentoring, right? So talk to us about that aspect of your services.
Sure. So a strong component of our work is providing the hands-on assistance along with the funding. And that hands-on assistance is a combination of understanding what these organizations need and want from the outside, and then working with individuals and corporates to actually place these interested individuals into these organizations. A great example of this is what we've recently been able to do with Vodafone and their World of Difference program. We spent quite a bit of time in designing an application process which Vodafone submitted to 10,000 of their employees. We have received over 150 applications and narrowed it down to the top 20 individuals who not only could say they wanted to volunteer, but were also able to justify their corporate skills that they brought to the table, which would add value to these organizations. And then we match them up with these organizations.
So if I want to mentor, what are the qualities you're looking for specifically?
Sure. I think one is your ability to listen. It's very important for us to, again, realize that we're not the bosses, they're the bosses, and we need to work within their time frame, their constraints, and their organization. I think number two is to be a good advisor. You have to be able to give a few options and let that individual social entrepreneur decide which option they want to take and then support them in that. Again, this is not that these NGOs are looking for bosses. They have enough of those already. They're looking for supporters. So I think those are the two qualities, your ability to listen as well as your ability to give advice, but then realize that final decision stays with the organization, not with you.
Right. You're listening to Bole to Enterprise with Anant and Arun. We'll be right back after this short break.
90.8 Jago 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 Mumbai 90.8
Bole to Enterprise.
Bole to Enterprise.
Welcome back to Bole to Enterprise. We are in conversation with Deval Sanghavi of Dasra. Deval, let us speak to one such volunteer who has actually benefited from a program in Dasra. We are going to speak to Sonal from Vodafone and understand exactly her first-hand experience of going through this program. Sonal, welcome to Bole to Enterprise. Tell us something about yourself.
Hi, thank you so much, Arun, for inviting me over. I'm really happy and glad that I'm part of the show. My name is Sonal and I'm part of Vodafone Rajasthan. I work with Vodafone organization and I've been with them for about 10 years now.
Sonal, tell us exactly what you did with Dasra and what was the program that you went through.
Dasra about 3 months ago had approached, Vodafone and Dasra have tied up to work on different projects with different NGOs. And a lot of us applied for this position and they were shortlisted. And I was one of them and I got shortlisted and I'm part of Angan Trust now in Bombay. I've left my job for about 6 weeks and I'm living away from my family, away from my work, and is completely associated with Angan organization. And I'm working here as a volunteer.
What has the learning experience been and how has that benefited you?
I have learned quite a bit personally as well as, what really an NGO works like. We always live in a corporate world and we really do not know what and how an NGO operates. So I have learned on the operations front as well as in the personal front. Angan as a trust, they work with girls and they work with child, on the issues of child protection across India. And I really did not know that they also work in children's home, which is the observation homes, the juvenile jails, where girls are, from different facets of life, they're from different situations, different difficulties. They are brought in here, and Angan, through a program called Shakti, they empower these girls. They try and build their self-confidence, and they try and tell them that they can do a lot of things. They have to believe in themselves. So a lot of these girls come here very dejected in these observation homes, and we, through different 14 sessions, teach them how to believe in themselves, how to believe in their dreams, and how to fulfill those dreams tomorrow when they move out of these jails. That's on one front. They also reach out to very, very vulnerable communities, societies like Dongri, Manikund, Govindi, and they work with these isolated girls of those communities. They bring them together under one roof, and then teach them how to bring in a change in themselves and also bring in a change in their society and community.
Great.
And these girls are like as small as 11 years old, 12 years old, and they have so much of, so many dreams, and they want to fulfill those dreams. Somebody wants to become an engineer, somebody wants to become a doctor. They don't know the right path. So Angan and myself, we are showing them those paths.
That's a lot of insights, Sonal, on your experience. Having gone through this program from Dasra, what is your one advice to a lot of other corporate executives like you who want to enter this social space?
It's more of a personal achievement. And, we talk about a lot of things in the corporate world, but what's really important is move out of those four walls. And this world is wanting to learn what you have learned over the years. And they are willing to extend their timing and learn from you and make that change and bring that change in them.
So are you also encouraging a lot of your colleagues in Vodafone to take this up?
I am so excited. We have been sharing our experiences with Vodafone employees back home, and I have already got about 10, 12 people who are already willing to join this entire program the coming year. Apart from that, they are also excited for me to start something like this in Rajasthan, and I am gunning for it, and I'm going to go back, and I'm not going to leave Angan as an organization going ahead as well.
Sonal, not just your colleagues from Vodafone, but also I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to be inspired by what you just said. And thanks a lot for being on this show.
Thank you so much, Arun, for inviting me on.
Yeah, thanks.
90.8 Jago, jago, jago. Jago Mumbai. 90.8.
Hi, this is Chahat from Bandra, and I'm proud to be an eco-warrior on Jago Mumbai. I choose to drive an electric car. My car occupies least amount of road space, doesn't pollute, and is easy to drive and park. I stay committed to my cause and will continue to do my bit to keep our environment both clean and green. I also run an eco-friendly company that promotes natural products in natural fibers, and that's the legacy I will leave to my kids. Jago Mumbai, become an eco-warrior.
90.8 Jago, jago, jago. Jago Mumbai. 90.8.
Bole to Enterprise.
Bole to Enterprise.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Bole to Enterprise on 90.8 Jago Mumbai, and we are talking to Deval from Dasra. So Deval, we've heard the word social impact throughout the conversation. Can you basically explain what do you mean by social impact? Is it the number of heads impacted? Is it the number of wells you've dug and that has caused the reduction of diseases, as in cleaner water? Can you give us a sense of metrics? Just explain to us.
Of course. No, and this is a very important topic that many organizations and donors think about all the time. And honestly, the answer is there is no right answer. Mm-hmm. I think we're all trying to figure out how do we measure what we do and how do we then use those measurements to do what we do better.
Right.
A few examples that we've used in the past, for example, include organizations that come through our Dasra Social Impact Program. When they start in our program, we actually look at what their budgets are, mm-hmm. how many people they're reaching out to, and what are the various programs that they're currently offering to these beneficiaries or clients. We then sort of rate them throughout the course to see how these numbers are changing, not just in the 6-month span, but more importantly, in their 3 to 5 year horizon or plans. Being in essence an educational program, we realize the value of the program will only be achieved once these organizations graduate from our class.
Right.
That being said, we do track the changes and shifts that they've had throughout the 6 months, and we'll contact them on an annual basis to see where they've got and if they can attribute any of the changes, shifts, or successes to the program in itself.
But would you say that going from, say, 100 people in a village to maybe, 1,000 people in 6 months, is that a measurable impact for you, or is it a great impact?
Sure. So to give you an example, one of the graduates of our program, Educate Girls, came through 3 years ago. And when they were starting the program, they were working in 500 schools in Rajasthan, focusing on getting more girls enrolled in these schools. Today, they're at 2,500 schools.
Wow.
With the same sort of metrics of success. Their enrollment rates, for example, that they target in each and every village has remained consistent, if not improved.
Right.
They've added other aspects to their program, which includes girl leadership training, as well as recruiting girls from the community who maybe have 10th, 11th, and 12th passed to actually be spokesmen for girls' education in those communities. And I think most importantly, they get now a large percentage of budgeting from the government of India. So these are 3 examples of metrics that we had helped them identify, and they identified on their own when they started with us 3 years ago, and where they've come today. And that demonstrates to us that the program has had value to them as an organization, and more importantly, that organization has had value to the community that they're working in.
But some impacts, though, can't be measured over a shorter period of time, say 3 years or 5 years. There are impacts like that. Can you talk to us a little bit about that kind of impact?
Exactly. And I think that's why it's important for your viewers to realize that the ones that can't be measured many times are more important than the ones that can be measured.
Right.
So to give you an example, there's an organization in Pune called Lend a Hand, and they expose children in 8th, 9th, and 10th standard to various vocational trades and crafts. It can be carpentry, it can be auto mechanics, it can be electricians. And the goal of this is not that someone is going to graduate from 10th standard and become an electrician, but the goal is just through that exposure, when they leave the mainstream schooling system, hopefully they'll join a vocational training institute. Then 2 to 3 years after they go through that vocational institute, they'll actually get a job. So this is a time frame, for example, it may be a 6-year horizon that they're looking at from when a child joins them at 8th standard, but the benefit of then ensuring that that child has that exposure in 8th standard ensures that they will actually earn an income 6 years from now.
Deval, I have to take a short break right now, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about the programs that you run with both your stakeholders. So you stay tuned. We'll be right back with Bole Enterprise on 90.8 Jago Mumbai.
90.8 Jago 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 Mumbai 90.8
Bole Enterprise.
Bole Enterprise.
Welcome back to Bole Enterprise. We are in conversation with Deval Sanghavi of Dasra. Deval, how does the Dasra Social Impact Program work?
So we actually run an executive education program for social entrepreneurs called Dasra Social Impact. And in this program, we evaluate 150 to 200 organizations and come up with the top 40 that we feel really want assistance and can use assistance from the outside. After doing the screening, understanding, and choosing these applicants, we then put them through a 6-month program, which a part of that is volunteering. In addition to the volunteering, we actually bring this group together over the course of the 6 months. 1 week every 2 months they come. So it's 3 weeks of residential training where the entrepreneurs themselves come together, and many times this is the first opportunity they've had to open up to a group of peers to understand their issues and challenges and learn from each other. In fact, that's probably one of the strongest parts of our program is actually creating a community of social entrepreneurs to come together and learn from each other.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we can bring experts from Mumbai, Delhi, and so on. But reality, none of us have gone through the journey that they've gone through.
Right.
So in addition to the peer-to-peer learning, we also do bring some sort of academic inputs. We do case studies. We do one-on-one sessions.
Right.
And the goal is over the 6-month period to really create organizations that have stronger business plans, and then we give them a platform to investors, philanthropists, and corporates where they can pitch their ideas for funding.
And does this happen twice a year then?
So it's a annual program, but the courses run throughout 6 months. So it's once a year.
Right. So is there a cost to the entrepreneur?
There is. So
Okay.
we have the entrepreneur pay a specific amount. To be honest with you, that doesn't even cover their accommodation cost in Mumbai for 3 weeks.
Right.
But it's a token that they're interested and excited about this program. And then we raise support from the outside sectors and individuals to support the funding of the training of these individuals.
So if the entrepreneur cannot afford it, then is there a sponsorship or you ask them to raise it?
So both. We've also had entrepreneurs who've gone back to their donors and asked for sponsorship, as well as donors who've come to us and said we would like to actually sponsor the NGOs that we support to come through your program because we think they need to have separate skills that our check writing does not provide them, and we also want them to be introduced to a larger group of donors, again what that individual check writer is not able to do on their own.
Right. This other interesting program, a first of its kind, called the Philanthropy Forum that you run, and can you tell us about that also?
Of course. We started the Indian Philanthropy Forum 3 years ago in 2010. And the premise behind it was that India has seen ridiculous growth in terms of wealth creation, and the number of HNIs, for example, in 2010, we had 127,000 millionaires in our country. Now, these high net worth individuals, all of them realize that there is a tremendous amount of capital that they've been able to create, yet there's so many needs in this country that sort of increases the disparity between the rich and the poor, and they want to give back. The problem is they don't necessarily have the time to do the 6 to 9 months research to understand the sector, and they don't even have a community themselves of other like-minded philanthropists where they can talk, discuss, and figure out how to create and fund better solutions to the problem.
So does this happen twice a year or does it?
So the Indian Philanthropy Forum itself, we have quarterly events and an annual event where we bring together high net worth individuals around thought, discussion, and dialogue about particular sectors, focuses, or even philanthropy as a whole.
So if I'm a high network individual listening to this show, how do I, contact you?
Sure, you should just go to our website and access the Indian Philanthropy Forum link, and over there they'll give you those.
So is there a selection criteria for the philanthropists?
So even with the philanthropists, we do want, again, similar to the Dasra Social Impact Program, people who are willing to learn, willing to share, and willing to be part of a community. I think it's very important that we build a community of people who want to learn from each other.
Right.
And if you want to do something individually, you think you have the right answers, this is probably not for you. But if you think that there's a lot you can learn and maybe add, this is the right community.
But is there a financial criteria that I need to at least have 3 lakhs to give, or is there a minimum amount?
Sure. We typically work with donors who give between 15 to 20 lakhs a year to charity. And the reason we sort of focus on that number is because those individuals will probably spend a little bit more time in thinking about their giving than someone, let's say, who's giving 5,000 or 2,000 rupees.
Right. So minimum, I should have 15 lakhs. Is that sort of a...
Yes, to give. Exactly.
Okay.
So Deval, to do what you're doing, you need a team and you need people. So we're going to talk about exactly how you raise your team and maintain that team when we come back from this break. So stay tuned. You're listening to Bole to Enterprise on 90.8 Jago Mumbai.
90.8 Jago 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 Mumbai 90.8
Bole to Enterprise.
Bole to Enterprise.
Welcome back. You're listening to Bole to Enterprise with Anant and Arun, and we are in a great conversation with Deval Sanghavi of Dasra. It's a local enterprise here in Mumbai which supports social entrepreneurs and also brings philanthropists and high network individuals in the picture to help these social organizations as well. Deval, where we left off, we were going to talk about the team you have built in Dasra. Talk to us, give us some insights on how you built the team.
Sure. So we've been very fortunate that over the years, just through word of mouth, people have heard about what we do. And we've got a great cadre of individuals, many of them professionals from the for-profit space, who decided earlier in their careers, after sort of working 2 to 5 years, that the skills that they learned from the corporate sector, they wanted to actually utilize in the nonprofit sector. Therefore, we now have a team of 30 phenomenal individuals who come from various backgrounds that work tirelessly day in and day out to scale social impact within India.
Right.
So you are in the social sector, and it's not very easy to maintain a team in the social sector and to retain them. So what do you actually specifically do, and what is your advice to entrepreneurs to actually work to maintain a team?
No, that's a great question. And in fact, just yesterday we were having a similar discussion with our team. I think all individuals, when they actually go for jobs, they look for both intrinsic and extrinsic rewards. I mean, you learn this in sort of basic business management. And I think what an organization such as ours or other nonprofit organizations realize very quickly, that the extrinsic awards, which is sort of the monetary value one can provide, is limited because we're a charitable organization. That being said, we have to then focus much more on the intrinsic rewards. How do you, for example, enable younger individuals to take on more responsibility? How do you focus on team and culture? We have, for example, monthly full-day meetings. We do staff retreats. We actually focus a lot on professional development for our organization, realizing that that's what's going to keep them committed in the sector. Mm-hmm. And those are the type of skills and commitment you need, along with, of course, the analytical backgrounds that they already bring to the table.
Right. So give us a sense of a typical team member. If I'm interested in joining Dasra, give us a sense of a typical profile you're looking for.
Sure. So I'll give you an example of one of our team members, Vishal Kapoor. Vishal grew up in Bandra and lives here. And he was going to school in India, actually went out to the US for college, worked in a consulting company for a few years there, came back to India with the goal of not just wanting to come back to India, but again, using those skill sets for the sector. So Vishal found out about us over the internet. He did some research, and he, for example, is a member of our team that works with NGOs on the ground and provides management consulting support to those organizations. Mm-hmm. So again, with each and every vertical that we have at Dasra, it's really understanding what are your corporate skills and how you can use them for the sector, mm-hmm. as opposed to you just are passionate about being in the sector and would rather, do something that's not related to what your experiences have taught you.
So you do have some general specialists and subject matter experts.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what are the general attributes one needs to have to work in this sector?
I think one, and I've said this earlier in terms of volunteering, I think first of all, we all need to be humble to the organizations that exist in the sector, as well as those individuals who give large amounts of capital to the sector. I think that, first of all, needs to come out if you want to be in this space, and you have to be open and understanding and open to learn. It's really important, especially as an organization like Dasra expands, for us to realize from day one that we wouldn't be here if these other individuals who are actually driving and fueling this growth and change that we see across the country, we wouldn't be there if they're not there. So I think one is that. I think two is being a good listener again, understanding issues, building strong relationships. And I think three is being very open to different solutions and open to understanding, again, the constraints of either the donor or the organization that we're trying to help out, and then figuring out solutions that suit their needs as opposed to what suits our needs.
Right.
So an open mind and a good listening skills, and also open to learning, three important attributes one has to have. We are going to talk about this aspect of learning and what your learnings have been from actually setting up Dasra when we come back from this break. So stay tuned. You're listening to Bole to Enterprise on 90.8 Jago Mumbai.
90.8 Jago 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 Mumbai 90.8
Bole to Enterprise.
Bole to Enterprise.
Welcome back to Bole to Enterprise. We are in conversation with Deval Sanghavi, and we have spoken a lot on how he actually started Dasra, what is the concept of giving, volunteerism, professionalism, sustainability, about the program Dasra runs. Deval, I'm sure throughout this journey there have been failures and more interestingly learnings. Can you speak about that to us?
Oh, of course. I think going into this space and moving, I guess, from the States to India from investment banking, I think very quickly one could assume that money is the only issue. And I think once you start working with these organizations, one of the biggest learnings, which has really dictated where we are today, is that human capital is as important as the money, if not at times more important. And we only did that by sort of working with organizations at times, giving grants, expecting certain things to occur, and later on realizing that they wouldn't occur because they didn't have necessarily the capacity to make it happen. Not that they were embezzling money, not that they were taking it and using it for something else. They just didn't know how to grow, for example, from 100 individuals they were helping to 5,000. So that was, I think, one big learning. I think another big learning we had was this viewpoint that in order to make change in this country, I have to start something on my own. We have one of the richest social sectors in the world today, the strongest civil societies. NGOs in this country are recognized globally for being leaders, whether it's Akshay Patra feeding 1.2 million children on a daily basis, whether it's Pratham educating more children through volunteers, not just in India, but possibly globally, or even like Magic Bus, that's using sport to bring kids onto the field, but then teaching these kids life skills, making them more employable. These three organizations are great examples of being heralded internationally for being leaders in their space on a global platform, yet people in their own cities, including Mumbai, don't even know that they exist.
So would you say that one of the big learnings has been that you need to test your hypothesis before actually kind of entering the sector?
That's a given. But I think more than that, you need to also work with established social entrepreneurs and not create something on your own. And I guess, I mean, just in answering this question, I realize that it's not about what you can do for someone, it's about what that individual needs. How do we solve that problem and then put resources towards it, as opposed to what can make me happy 3 hours a week?
You also had tough times going through this process, starting Dasra. What took you through the dark nights?
Working with these amazingly inspiring social entrepreneurs. I mean, these are people who work day in and day out, or have smiles on their faces, that are trying to shift the way generations have thought about education or healthcare or nutrition or the treatment of adolescent girls, and seeing their ability to stay motivated. And I think most importantly, the people that they're helping, who we would probably consider in our lives gone through such hardships. Mm-hmm. For example, in working with street children in Grant Road Station 15 years ago, seeing them, and yet how they, living on the road, being abused by police, living such a life, were still so positive in life and wanting to learn and eager to go to sort of make a living for themselves. I think that inspires us day in and day out, and seeing that these people who are so-called have-nots actually have so much more to live for, and demonstrate that day in and day out with their hope and inspiration, that inspires us to keep going.
So what's your future goal for Dasra in 5 years? Where do you want to go?
So I think in 5 years, our goal is really to expand each of our verticals. I mean, we think that there's an ability to work with a larger number of social entrepreneurs and hopefully hit 1,000 mark in the next 5 years, simultaneously working with a larger group of high net worth individuals. And really we work with two again, because both are needed in this platform and are as important. And I think if we can provide both organized sets of stakeholders the necessary tools, guidelines, and resources in place to become more interactive and impactful in their approaches, we think we can move people out of poverty faster.
There was so much insight into the sector, but what is that one advice that you would give for social entrepreneurs out there who want to start up?
I think even for social entrepreneurs, I would look at existing organizations, see what's there, see if you can join existing teams. Starting something from scratch, we all may think it's a sexy thing to do. It's very, very difficult. And more importantly, once you are a social enterprise and you have committed certain products or services to a group, you don't want to ever let them down.
Okay, so working in the sector, see what is there and not just immediately start up is that one big advice. And with that, Deval, thank you very much for being on the show, and really appreciate your time given, and thanks a lot.
And we wish Dasra the best.
Thank you for this opportunity.
That's today's show, everyone. Bole to Enterprise salutes Dasra. Jago Mumbai is all for more organizations that create social change and social benefit. We really hope that we have organizations like Dasra that help to make our world a better place to live.
And as for Bole, please send us your feedback. We would love to hear from you. Tell us your suggestions, your thoughts, your complaints to Jago Mumbai's email address, which is 90.8jagomumbai@gmail.com. Again, that's 90.8jagomumbai@gmail.com. Till next week, this is Anant.
And this is Arun.
Wishing you a great enterprising week ahead.
90.8 Jago Jago Jago